belongingness to imposter phenomenon, maybe they'll be connected at my institution because they also enforce sisterhood among us as well. And then relatedness is really similar to belongingness, like it's that connectedness, and it's used interchangeably in some of the research I found, but it was interesting because they're not explicitly linked. So I wanted to do that as well. And then finally, I wanted to see if, okay, maybe these two variables, relatedness and belongingness, if they can be considered together, that can strengthen a sense of like predictivity for imposter phenomenon severity. Do you feel like one's environment plays a role in the level of imposter feelings they have or manifest?
Yes, I do. Once I started at Georgia State, I did feel like an imposter, like what you were saying. I feel like I didn't belong, and I didn't feel like I was meant to be there. So, but once I started to, get comfortable with my environment and fill out the situation, fill out the people and everything, I was able to find like my people and be more comfortable in that. So I feel like the level of imposterism did go down. Once I also too, I feel like once I was in the class and I was able to grasp everything and just know, I don't know, but like I was able to like grasp everything. I knew I was meant to be there,
Yeah.
and it just felt, yeah, I just got very comfortable with the like my surroundings and everything. Once you're more in the environment, that's when it goes down. The flow.
No. And that's exactly like my train of thinking as well, or my line of thought as well, because we know that or the research out there links imposter phenomenon with psychological distress. So things like anxiety and depression. But when it comes to like relatedness and or an environment having where you have relatedness and you feel belongingness, these are you see the opposite happening, the opposite correlation. So with these, I feel like psychological distress lessons. So when comparing those opposite or opposing effects, it really makes you think like, okay, let's see if these are linked in that type of way too. Because I feel like it could be really important for interventions, especially being mindful of like the role an institution could have. So yeah, that's basically my thesis projects and some of the major concepts that I address. And I just want to know if you have any questions, you want me to reiterate or explain what I'm studying or anything like that.
No, I think I get it, everything. You did a very good job explaining.
Thank you so much. And then I really appreciate your participation in this all.
Thank you.
Can you just introduce yourself a little about you and like what you study?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Nia. Currently, I'm working on conceptualizing a class-based version of the imposter phenomenon, but broadly, my research interests are mainly in education, well, the intersection of education and psychology. I'm interested in the educational attainment of Black students in particular, focusing on high school to college transition.
All right. Perfect. So as you know, we have similarities in looking at imposter phenomenon, and that is the main focus of my thesis study. So
Cool.
basically, when I started off, I remember my first year at Spelman, like people would be like, "Oh, I just feel like everyone is just so smart and like although I'm here, like I just don't feel like I'm at a point where I'm on that same level," and just doubting their competence and intellectual abilities despite them being at the school, them having their own accomplishments that got them to this point. So I just found that very interesting and I was like, I wonder what that is, like feeling like an imposter. Imposter syndrome is what I first saw it as, and
Right.
then looking further and like expanding on like the research, imposter phenomenon is what I was introduced to. And so to
Mhm.
start off, I wanted to see like where the gaps lie in the research
Mhm.
with imposter phenomenon. And so basically I had stumbled onto while it was looked at with psychological distress, like adverse mental health symptoms like depression, anxiety. Um this is known, which is why it's important to look into it, but I also found that it was connected to a motivational theory called the
Mhm.
self-determination theory. Are you familiar with that?
Hmm.
Okay, perfect. I love that. Okay. I had looked at that and it's with the existing research. Like there was a couple articles I found, and basically the self-determination theory is like a motivational theory where the needs of competence, relatedness, and autonomy must be met for a person to feel like they're able to complete a task. And so
Hmm.
that was looked at with imposter phenomenon, and it found like there's a negative relationship with all three of those variables. So say like when one feels competent, the severity of IP was found to like be to decrease or be like less severe. And the same for relatedness. So I wanted to look more at the environment of the institution at Spelman College, and I wanted to look at specifically from the self-determination theory, relatedness, which is like feeling connected to people, your peers, who you surround yourself, that level of connection, and then also belongingness. So the level of belongingness you feel at your institution, like if you feel like you fit in, if you feel like your institution fosters like a major part of your identity and you feel comfortable there. So I was like, in research, the relatedness and belongingness, they have been used interchangeably, but not, there's no evidence supporting that there's a direct link. And so what I wanted to do in my research was first look at to see if these two are correlated. Um, and what I had hypothesized is that they would be correlated. And then second, we know that relatedness is like when one feels high relatedness, they feel they report lower imposter phenomenon scores. So we know that, and then in also research for belongingness, there's mixed findings I had found. So for one study, she found that when one feels high belongingness at their institution, their levels of imposter phenomenon similarity decrease. But one found that there's no significant correlation between the two. So I wanted to see, okay, maybe at Spelman College, a university that really enforces the idea of sisterhood, that belongingness level will help belongingness and relatedness considered together will help support a predictive relationship between the imposter phenomenon severity. So that's basically what I'm looking at, seeing if these two variables are correlated to individually to imposter phenomenon at Spelman College, and also seeing if considered together, they can be predictive of lower or decreasing imposter phenomenon severity. Because I feel like one's environment is very influential in their level of imposter phenomenon. So I just wanted to test that out and see what um, looking at it as a sample of Spelman College students who are very like driven academically. It's really pressed in us like we're shaping our intellectual development. So I
Hmm.
felt like, and even down to like the conversations I was having my first year, I feel like imposter phenomenon is experienced, but also these other things could be
Yeah.
looked at too. So that's what I'm looking at. And do you have any questions about anything or how I wanted
Yeah.
to look at all classes. So first years, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And then while I didn't make any prediction for how it would look, I wanted to also see if there's a difference in imposter phenomenon between upperclassmen and lowerclassmen as well.
So did you field another survey, like just of Spelman students?
Yes, I actually I've been like developing that since last semester, and
Oh,
I
cool.
submitted my IRB application for that, and I just got approved yesterday for it.
Oh,
So
yay.
I'm
Congratulations.
really,
That's
thank
exciting.
you. It is. And so I'm really like tinkering with the survey. I think over the summer it
Mhm.
really helped working on that survey that we did
Yeah.
just to get comfortable with Qualtrics. But I expect to send that out through email blasts, flyers, hopefully next Wednesday to start getting that data collection to come through.
That's cool. So, well, yeah, I guess this is related. So the paper that we're working on, what is that going to focus on? Like, is that like over the summer, did you look at, I think we had what, like the university environment scale on there and
Yes, we had a
uh,
lot of
like cultural
scales.
congruence. Yeah. Is that what you
Racial
want to
centrality.
do?
Um, those scales were actually unknown to me because I had developed this before I came over this summer. And so, um, while I wish I had known and incorporated that in some way, I didn't. But I feel like with the research over the summer, that will help add to the discussion about like those environmental influences of a school, how that impacts. Because we do know that it wasn't supported that there was a significant difference between HBCU students and PWCU students. So
Yeah, I saw that and I was frankly surprised by
I
that,
was
but it could
too.
just be because the sample is small. But yeah, that was definitely surprising to me.
Hmm.
I guess the other question I have, are there any other like demographic variables that you're looking at as far as, I mean, I know obviously Spelman is the women's college, but like in terms of like generation status or SES or anything like that?
I am not.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I haven't asked those in my demographic questions. I think at most asked about just a measure of their GPA just to see how
Yeah.
that's related as well. But in
Others.
terms of like their background like that, just if
Mhm.
they're like they identify as Black or African American is like and a woman or female identity. So
Mhm. Cool. Yeah, no, I mean, you have plenty of time. You can always do that in a later study, but I was just curious because, there's kind of that perception that Black people, like, we're like a monolith, but we're not.
hmm.
So I definitely think there's probably some other things that can be investigated.
Oh, for sure. And I think with our study that we did over the summer, measuring all of that, I do want to talk about that and discuss that in the paper because with my PowerPoint or the presentation I gave, it was limited and I didn't have that much time, but I really wanted to like look at the what the observations like what we can see based on like economic status or if they're first generation, second generation, things like that. So
Mhm. Okay, cool. That's really cool. You're doing great work, especially because you're still an undergrad, so you're like getting a head start, which is great.
yes, thank you.